Hello and welcome to Victoriana. It's the beginning of December and we did just about get all our fruit and hedging orders out um, before the beginning of December, which is what we'd promised we'd do. So anyone ordering now, we're completely up to date and things getting out the door pretty quickly. It also gives us a little bit of time now to get on and catch up on one or two other jobs. So at the moment I'm cleaning and sharpening all the secateurs, and elsewhere around the nursery we're getting out onto the vegetable garden, starting to tidy that and dig bits and pieces as I'll show you. So December is a busy time for us, just like any other month really. Obviously in a few weeks time we'll be closing down for Christmas, but between now and then hopefully we'll be dispatching quite a lot of Christmas orders, because plants and bits and pieces make fantastic Christmas presents. So do have a look in our gift section. We've got one or two fun ideas in there, like our champagne wine grape selection and our asparagus lovers kit. People love those sort of bits and pieces, and they really are presents for people who think they've got everything and then they discover they haven't. But so no, really busy time for us, and this is what's going on elsewhere around the nursery.
So here in the bubble we're pretty full up. We need to be really. This is the only house that we heat, and obviously we need to get as much in here and get as much value as we can from the gas that we use to heat it. So one or two bits and pieces have been moved in from outside and also from our cold glass. Fuchsias will be pruned back now and are already coming back into growth, so we're getting cuttings on those. The light levels that we're having, because it has been so good this autumn and early winter, means that things like the citrus haven't taken on their usual sad and yellow look that they usually do this time of year. Primulas have come on ridiculously well. We've moved one or two other bits and pieces closer to some of the heaters, so they actually get a sniff more warmth than the rest of the greenhouse, if that makes sense. So yeah, busy time in here. I'm pretty stacked out really. Here in the prop area it's actually quite a quiet time. As I say, we have been doing some fuchsia propagation, and there's one or two other bits and pieces of seedlings underway. We have got a bit of heat on these beds. We've taken down all our lighting, we're replacing that, and we'll be doing that over the next few weeks, so we're ready for just after Christmas when we really start propagating hard. Some grapes there, some grafted grapes sitting there ready for potting up. But no, other than that really, this end of the year up until Christmas it's quite quiet in here, and then obviously it'll be time to be sowing onions and start off on everything for the following year. So out here on the vegetable garden, now we've got a bit more time on our hands, we've started digging over the plots, and this one in particular we've added a lot of spent compost. So that's compost from the various veg that we grew in tubs this year. That's been incorporated into the soil, and just given it a rough dig now, which we'll leave that now until sort of mid-March time, and then we'll get a load of manure on top before we spin it over with the rotavator. Obviously being December, things aren't looking the most cheerful out on the veg garden. We're still obviously cropping things like leeks and the brassicas, and what is really amazing for this year, because it's been so mild, we're even harvesting one or two artichokes, which is just completely mad. But that's what the seasons are doing at the moment. So up here in the veg tunnel, things are looking pretty sparse, which is about right for the time of year. Up the far end there we've got some winter carrots and one or two oriental veg and brassicas and bits and pieces. We've potted up some raspberries, so we'll get early raspberries each year, and of course some of these are primocanes, so we'll get some raspberries next year. And today Mark's just putting in some asparagus plants, which obviously they're going to be a couple of years before they really kick in, but they'll give us an early asparagus crop. The real beauty of all this of course is once it's done what we want it to do each year, we can just move the tubs outside for the summer, then move them back in for the winter, so that we are really maximising the usage of the tunnel. So up here in the top house, we've just about got everything in we want to for the winter months. Obviously we're late, being beginning of December, but the weather is so warm it's ridiculous. It doesn't really matter that we're a bit late. We've got all the snow supports up, and it's scary to think that this time last year we had 9 inches of snow today, And today it's been lovely and warm. It's the afternoon now, so it's cooling down, but it's been lovely and warm, and we've literally only had something like 3 frosts this year. So some of the stuff that's been brought in here for the winter is actually growing away a bit too much, but obviously it won't be too bad. It'll die down naturally when the weather does eventually come. Outside, it's more a case of being wet and grot time of year, so we are still dispatching things like brassicas from plants that are nicely hardened off and have been outside and have got as much of the weather as they can have. But yeah, it's grotty time of year. We have had quite a lot of rain recently, so it's a bit wet and yucky out here, but everything's fine for this time of year really. So here we are out in the bare root area. These are all the bits and pieces that we were lifting at the beginning of November, and they've all been strawed in, and this is where we're taking orders from now. We've sold out of sweet chestnuts for some reason, but other than that we haven't had to do any further liftings and don't anticipate to until January, February sort of time. It's wet and horrible out here because we've had a lot of rain, but it has to really be that sort of conditions anyway, just to keep everything as we want. Over on this bench over here we've got some various bits and pieces of seed, things like hellebores that need the winter frosts before they germinate properly. So they're all covered up with trays to keep the mice and the birds off the seed. At the moment we haven't had the frost, so there's not much going on there. And then over here, another little trick that we do, things like our Chinese artichokes and Jerusalem artichokes, so that's the sort of the tuberous ones, we lift them en masse and then put them into trays of spent compost so that we can lift them from here rather than having to go out into the field and dig them and get all muddy and yucky. So they will stay in here and we will lift from here and dispatch it as we need to. So that's it really. That's beginning of December at Victoriana, and we'll keep you updated on what we're doing and maybe speak to you before Christmas.